Hey there, and welcome to Time to Lean, the podcast where you air your dirty laundry and we help you clean up your shit. I'm Crystal Britt.
And I'm Laura Danger. Think of us as your household secret weapon, taking your questions and voicemails to navigate the wild world of gender norms and household dynamics.
We dive headfirst into the nitty-gritty of how broader social issues impact our everyday lives.
So don't be shy. Send us your dirty laundry.
And we'll help you clean up your shit.
This is Time to Lean. Welcome back, everybody. This is Laura and Crystal with Time to Lean. We are so happy you are here. And today, we absolutely love these. We have an Am I the Asshole?
They're so good. These are my favorite.
How are you?
I'm
Crystal,
okay.
How are you?
We're doing it. We are in the middle of the week and it is very hot, but we are doing it. How about you?
Same. Fine. Welcome distraction to hang out here with you and talk about
100%.
This.
Totally agree.
Okay, so I found this Am I the Asshole? And I liked it because it's a little murky. We're going to see. You are going into this blind, correct?
Totally blind. Have not even seen it. Yes.
Okay. Here we go. Am I the asshole for not canceling the cleaner when my partner asked me to? Okay, here we go. Am I the asshole for not canceling the cleaner when my partner asked me to, as he was tired? He says, I am the asshole for not wanting to cancel. I was away and I organized for our cleaner to come to clean before I came back with our toddler. On that morning, my partner, who was coming back from the airport after waking up at 5 a.m. to pick up his mom, told me he only had 1 hour of sleep and that he just wanted to go to sleep and not deal with the cleaner. I pushed back and asked if he could just open the door to the cleaner, leave the money on the side, and go to sleep. He kept saying no to just cancel. I explained that I will get very stressed out if the flat is not clean, as I have a lot to do when I get back, like meal prep for the week, tidy up the bags, etc. So if he could please just let the cleaner in and go to sleep. I thought him insisting on canceling was quite selfish. He offered to pay for the cleaner as long as she doesn't come. She was already in the building cleaning another flat, so I said to him to just give her the cash and tell her to leave. He then let the cleaner in and went to bed. He insists on saying his need for sleep was more important than my need to get the flat clean. I think he didn't consider my needs at all, and that me suggesting he just go to sleep while the cleaner cleans was a good solution. Let me know if you think I'm the asshole.
Okay, how do we want to go about this? Do we want to do knee jerks? Do we want to do?
What do you think? Knee jerk.
Okay, here's the thing. I can definitely understand the need to have a clean space. For me personally, and I can see how this would like become a struggle with a partner, living with a partner. My need for sleep will always be bigger than the need for something to be clean. Always. Like in this scenario, especially where like he didn't sleep well for whatever reason, then had to go pick his mom up from the airport, then had to come back. I have canceled cleaners before for this reason. Like not a thing of, or I've asked Ben to, I think, probably, to be like, hey, can you just tell them not to come today because I have a migraine or whatever and I want to sleep? Because you still can, like, yeah, like theoretically what she suggested was the middle ground. However, can you sleep? Like, would you be able to take a nap if you were really tired if someone else was in your home? Like, I can't do that, especially if they're moving around, or I don't want, and I don't want them to feel like they need to be quiet. Like, I also don't want them coming into the room if I'm sleeping thinking they're going to clean the room. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't, when you, at least like when I have had our home cleaned before, you can't operate in your home like you usually would. Like, I don't take a shower while the cleaners are here. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, no, like your house is not in use. So like, for me, do I think she's an asshole? No. Do I think it was a reasonable request from her? Yeah. Do I think it was a reasonable request from him? Also, yes. I think those were both, and we have done the same thing before, like scheduled for the house to be cleaned before we come home from a vacation, because it does greatly reduce my stress levels. But I think in my case, if my partner were like, hey, I slept horribly, I'm just going to cancel the cleaners and the house was going to be a mess, I'd be like, yeah, that's like, I get it. Like, that's fine. But that's because of my experience with good sleep and wanting to figure something like, again, that need always being bigger. What
That's
about you?
interesting. I agree. I agree. I could never sleep if somebody was in my house. And they're saying it's a flat, so I'm guessing it's not, like we have an
Yeah.
upstairs. Like
Right.
you could be like, okay, could you please clean the downstairs while I'm upstairs?
Right.
So like, and that's just me trying to figure out what's going on, visualizing it. Um, but here, let me inject, I'm going to project information into this.
Okay.
This person is coming into the situation after being out of town with a toddler, coming home, and their thought is, I have so much shit to do, and I'm just hitting the ground running with my toddler, and you can't
Right.
take a nap.
Right.
Like, you're just gonna
Yeah.
sit there. And if his
Yeah.
reaction was, just pay her, just pay her, it wasn't about the pay. It was about, if he would have been like,
Right.
I'm gonna, you know what, I'll clean it. I'm like, this is just super inconvenient for
Right.
everyone. That would be a different situation. That's my reaction.
That's a really good point that like they could have gotten both needs met in a creative way like that, like a more collaborative. And the thing of where, and I think this happens, I mean, I know this happens in most partnerships, but like when you have a sticking point with your partner where you're having a conversation and they're like, well, no, we can't do that because I need to do this. And then you go, okay, but we can't do that because I need to do this. And then you both kind of just like stare at each other of like, okay, so like now what? Right. Where you're right. Like in this situation that is a more creative solution of like, okay, well, hey, listen, I'm so tired. I really like having the cleaners in the house isn't going to work for me today. Can I schedule them for tomorrow? Like, can I see if they can reschedule for tomorrow? Or can I tidy up and clean what room is going to stress you out the most so I can focus on that room and like deep clean that room before you get home? Because I definitely, especially depending upon like the age of the toddler and how long she's been gone, you know what I mean? Like there's that as well. This would also probably be a situation where like if I had to do this again next time, I would do it the day after I would schedule the cleaners for the day after we left as opposed to the day we get home, or because then hopefully that would be a different situation. But yeah, there could have been different ways he could have approached it as well, for sure.
Yeah, and I wonder when that conversation was happening.
Mm,
Like, was he at the last minute like, I'm really tired, just cancel them? Was it like 10 a.m. and they were getting
mm,
home at noon? And so it was like, oh no, I'm coming home. I'm arriving expecting this to be done. And now you're pulling out the rug from underneath me.
yeah.
Because I'm sure that's how I would feel. And also, I think that the guy has not had to take care of the toddler.
Right.
He may have been messy at home. Who knows? Who knows?
Right. Right.
Whatever it was, she felt like it was messy enough that she needed it cleaned by someone. Yeah. There's more to the story.
There's definitely more to the story. Here's my question, and this may be throwing a wrench and a tangent into here. If you swap the genders of those individuals, does it change it? Like, does it change the experience or the dynamic or how it would play out?
Okay, so she's been at home working or hanging out for a week
Alone in any
and
case, right? She's been alone.
alone. And he is coming into town with the toddler and she's like, I'm tired. I had to get up at 5.
I did it sweep well.
So
I always swept for an hour. We're
I'm
not making
so
fun of
tired.
anyone with speech impediments. We both have children who
Oh
speak like
man.
this.
No. I'm feeling very sleepy. Very sleepy. Yeah, yeah, if she's like, I'm just really tired. I know that you manage all of this, and you are the one who deals with the cleaner, and you have a relationship with her, and if you cancel on her even though she's in the building this day and she travels an hour to get here, and it's not actually going to be really easy to change her to tomorrow, all that
Yeah.
information, and she's like, it's fine, just cancel, I'll pay. Yeah, I think she was, I would be annoyed with her.
Mhm. Yeah. I think that it's a very it's one of these things that I think that I struggle with as well. Where like it's hard for me to when I'm uncomfortable or when something when my day gets fucked up, it's really difficult for me in that moment to regulate and be like, okay, but what is like the bigger picture of like where I'm like, oh, I'm all stressed out, how my actions like still have the potential to affect other people. Do you know what I mean? Like, does that make sense? Like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
wondering if like, and again, if we're swapping the genders in this situation, I feel like she would be more apt because people who are socialized as women are socialized to create comfort for everybody else. And
Mm-hmm.
so the ask, I don't even know if the ask would happen. Like most of the time, if something like that happens, I have to make myself advocate and be like, you need
Mm-hmm.
to say you can't do that, or you need to say you need to rest for that out. Like, but for him to be like, it's not that I don't understand why it's that big of a deal. Like, I just need to sleep. Why is it a big deal to just like tell her no and to cancel? Right. Like, I feel like there
Yeah.
are different levels of privilege at play that he's not aware of.
Yeah, I'm imagining like if it was me and you, it was you and I, and one of us is at home and the other person is coming with a toddler. You're
Like,
at home. Okay,
it's,
so
it's
Crystal, you're at your house and I'm coming with toddlers with a toddler, and you've been at home and you woke up early. You had to get somebody and you woke up early and you're like, I'm
okay.
so tired.
Okay.
Here's the
Go,
thing.
go. Keep going. Keep going.
I would be able to give you grace for that. And I'd be like, you're really tired. And you would
Yeah.
probably immediately go to, you know what? Cancel them. I'm going to handle rebooking them, or I'll clean up when I get up. That's how it would go.
It's the thing of being on the side of TikTok where it's the reactions after a woman who previously identified as straight has does not identify as straight anymore and has gone on a date with another woman and is like, she brought me flowers, she made the dinner plans, then we went to a bookstore down the street after, then we like it's those kinds of things where like you run head in, like as soon as you're like, okay, if it's me and you, how does it change? I'm like, the dynamic's completely different. That's a totally different dynamic.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's not even in the same ball field. Like it's
No, and
so interesting.
even if you change it to like friends, siblings, family
Yes.
members. It's so interesting. And there is like we treat it differently. It's so fucking funny from the outside to be like, okay, but what would you expect from a friend? A
Oh,
friend would
absolutely.
treat you empathetically. And I say that in the same breath that I do not always give, like I'm saying, I would give you more grace. I would give you more grace than I would probably give my husband. I would probably give you more grace
Right.
than the man I've been with for 15 years, which is not, I'm going to take that with me the rest of the day.
Because well,
I'm going to have to
and
think
here's the
about
thing
that.
that's so interesting 100%. I like exactly this. I'm gonna do exactly the same thing. Because it's like it's that thing of you know what it makes me think of is The Tragedy of Heterosexuality, the book that we read
Mhm.
by Jane Ward about how much money was spent in the 80s and 90s writing books about how to get men and women not to hate each other. Like, hey, like just don't
Mhm.
fucking hate each other. And I the reason that I the reason that I'm a loud, obnoxious intersectional feminist is for that, like, is because it's like those things of when we talk about intersectional feminism, it's not men are included in that because of the patriarchal norms and the gender norms and the gender messaging and the misogyny and the internalized homophobia and all of the things that affect men also in these dynamics, just like this, like you said, where it's like, no, the reason that I hold more grace for you as a friend is because that it's so interesting how like being with someone for a really long time who is of a different gender, where you're like, no, these rules don't apply to you because you should. I feel like the implication for me is you should know better.
Yeah.
I mean, this goes to hierarchy and like these ideas of like relationship hierarchies where you are supposed to be, and like Christian values, right? Western Christian values of like, you are supposed to be my person. You are supposed to know, husband, that
Uh-huh.
you're supposed to know everything about me. You're supposed to be the one person who has my back. You're supposed to anticipate my needs. You're supposed, and it's like, Jesus, fuck, like nobody can do that. So
Yeah.
why do we kind of like hold that same, why is it hard, I guess, to hold that same space for the person who lives with us every day versus not?
Well, okay, and I think that's the tricky thing. Like you said, like when you're in the heteronormative, when you're in that cookie cutter space, I hear things like, how am I supposed to read your mind? I can't read your mind. But at the same time, this guy is at home taking a nap and he was like, just canceled the payment. It's the payment. And like, I feel like you or many of the women in my life, or anybody who was really taught the value of nurturing or that their value is tied to that nurturing role would immediately be like, oh no, it's not about the money. The money
Right.
actually doesn't matter at all.
Yep.
It's like, that sucks, but there's the planning, there's the getting it done. I'm feeling stressed too. There's a lack of understanding. I'm feeling missed. So it is like, we shouldn't be assuming people can read our minds,
Mm-hmm.
and we can have grace for a lot of people are not conditioned into valuing that nurturing. And also, how do you expect better? Like, where do we land?
Mm-hmm.
I, neither of the people are really the asshole in this situation,
Mm-hmm.
but it sucked. How can it not suck?
Right. Right. And I think too, like that is also one of the things that like, because even like as you're talking about, like, you know, if you change the dynamic and it's friends or it's siblings or it's family, it's still that thing of when you live in the same space every day as your partner. This was why when like a few years ago there were like posts and like, I don't know, cut articles and New York Magazine articles about couples who lived in the same home but in different rooms. When people were like, "Oh my god," and I was like, "No, that totally makes sense to me." Like that makes so much
Mhm.
sense to me. Like even aside from like the sleep quality, if you both like have different sleep schedules or one snores or one uses a CPAP machine or whatever, it makes so much more sense to me to be like, no, I just want my own space to exist as a person. You live every day, like those person's actions directly affect your living environment. And you can't, like, you're not trapped, but you're stuck. You know what I mean? Like, you and I don't live together. My sister doesn't live with me. You know what I mean? Where
Mhm.
it's like, no,
Yeah.
we would have to navigate much more awkward. Like, my one of my sisters lived with us for a number of years until my oldest was 5 months old, and we had to navigate stuff like that where I would get irritated that, you know, whatever. But it was like, you have to, there is like that other like level of irritation of like, oh my God, we just talked about this 3 days ago, that you
Mhm.
don't necessarily have with somebody that you talk to on the phone or text with or go out, you know, go outside of your home with and hang out with.
Yeah, that's such an interesting point. I've been thinking about this a lot. Yeah, like relationship hierarchy, there's a certain obligation. Like you said, like you have you have a certain
Yeah.
obligation to work through issues differently. And I do
Mm-hmm.
think like Danielle Bayard Jackson wrote Fighting for Our Friendships, the book about female
Mm-hmm.
friendships. And I really liked the way that she writes about this, which is like, maybe we do have an obligation to work through some of that tougher stuff and to feel a long-term commitment with our friends and to be looking at friendship through like a slightly more connected lens, because I
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's a balance to be struck with
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a balance to be struck there. And the hierarchy is like it's pretty lopsided. It can be not so good.
Yeah, it can be super lopsided and the expectations can be and again, the expectations can be out of whack because nobody like there you could have expectations and this is like also where like the neurodivergent lens comes in that can make it a little bit more difficult even of like because those kinds of like social norms and not just hierarchies but the expectations may be different or like the unspoken ones maybe not be fully understood but having expectations or I was just talking to Ben last night about something and I said, "No, I told you that happened in May." And he was like, "No, you didn't tell me. It was something related to work." And I was like, "I didn't tell you about that?" And he's like, "No, I didn't know that happened." But one, his feelings are not hurt because he knows that I have you, I have my sister, I have people around me who it wasn't that it wasn't processed or I didn't deal with it. It was that I didn't I wasn't like, "Oh my god, I need you to stop your workday because something devastating happened." It was like, no, like I had processed it and so but again, when you start to move those heteronormative like out of that cookie cutter, there's a lot of potential for that to be shaken up. He did not feel insecure. He was glad I had processed it. He was glad that we accidentally stumbled upon it because he was like, "Oh, that feels important. Like tell me more about what happened." But it wasn't like oh, well, why didn't you tell he wasn't hurt, he wasn't frustrated, he wasn't upset. And I didn't feel that he had the expectation to fix it, right? Which is also I feel like a lot of times we looked like in this case too, where it's like we put these expectations of like and maybe that could have been a creative solution too for this couple of like to see the un unsaid need or unseen need of him saying like, "Hey, I know this is going to be super inconvenient and I know that this like has the potential to stress you out hardcore. I don't want to make your life harder. I also am exhausted. I only got 1 hour of sleep and I know you're coming." Like acknowledgement of all of the unseen stuff. Is it okay
Mm-hmm.
if is it okay if we cancel her for today and I will take on the acknowledgement, right? And her being
Yeah.
like, "Hey, I know that you were asleep for an hour, but or you didn't only slept for an hour and it's, you were up early. I hear you. Can I, help situate that or whatever?" But like maybe it is just speaking to that unseen need because most of the time it's like that's what you're looking for but we have these expectations of like, I'm stressed out. I'm coming back with a toddler. I need the house to be clean. And you're getting in the way of that. And I need you to fucking move. Like, move. Stop putting barriers in my way to this.
Yeah. I'm I'm going back and rereading this. I think this is really interesting. Okay, so he woke up really early. She's coming back with the toddler. He kept saying, "No, just cancel." I explained that I get very stressed out if the flat is not clean. I have to do all these other things. I thought him insisting on canceling was quite selfish. He offered to pay for the cleaner as long as she doesn't come. She was already in the building cleaning another flat, so I said to him to give her the cash and tell her to leave. So,
Oh, so like she was agreeing with him and was just like, just open the door and tell her not to come.
yeah, that's
That's where she
and
landed. She
then
was like, okay, fine, but you need to open the door and tell her to leave and not come. Like, you've got to
yes.
greet her.
He then let the cleaner in and went to bed. He insists on saying his need for sleep was more important than the need to get the flat clean. I think he
Oh,
didn't consider my need.
oh,
Yeah.
okay. How does it
I
change it for you?
I don't think I realized in the first reading. It sounds like she said, "Fine, just let her go." And
Mm-hmm.
then he was like he like went back on it and then so they both had a thing that they said and then both of them were like, "Fuck it." And like did the opposite. Am I picking up the correctly?
Yeah, I think so. Or it's that thing of when you it's that thing of when I don't know if you do this. Maybe not everybody does this and I'm revealing more about myself than I would like to. But it's that thing of when you say to your partner, "No, this is really important to me." And they go, "Well, this is really important to me." And then both of you go, "Okay, you know what? Never mind. Forget it. Forget I said anything." And then you both do the thing that the other person asked for. And
Yeah,
then everybody's pissed off because it's like,
everyone's mad.
I told her to leave. I did what you wanted me to do. And it was like, but that's not what you said you were going to do. And they were like, but you did what I told you to do when you told me you weren't going to do that. So now those are some fucked up relationship dynamics. Like that's then what I would go to of like, what's happening that like what you communicated was not consistent with what you did. Because I feel like it's almost better to say, no, like just, okay, fine, just cancel her. I don't like that he let her in. It sounds like he let the cleaner in to avoid a fight instead of turning her away at the door because he knew, like maybe he knew he was going to pay for it later, quote unquote.
Right.
But that's passive aggressive.
Right.
Like,
because then she's going to come home and he's going to be tired, or he's going to say, I got really shitty sleep. I did what you wanted. And he's going to, yeah.
Because then it
That's not
feels
good.
like in that situation, then it gives him like it has the potential to give him the feeling of to give him the power or control to be like, well, I did what you wanted, and now I'm exhausted. So guess what? I'm not available for the next 3 days. I mean, I'm projecting all kinds of shit onto him, and may not be the case at all. But like, that's what that would feel like. Of like, well, I did what you wanted me to do. What do you want me to do? I'm tired. Now I'm exhausted. I can't help you with the kid for 3 days or whatever.
Yeah. This says, I mean, if I go back to the beginning of what she wrote, am I the asshole for not canceling the cleaner when my partner asked me to, as he was tired? He says, I am the asshole for not wanting to cancel. So
That she's the asshole for not wanting to cancel?
yeah, he wanted to
Right.
cancel because he was tired. And then she was like, no, just let her in and go to sleep. Just let her in and go to sleep. And then she was like, fine, at least open the door and give her money. She's in the building.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, whatever. And then let her in. That's what I'm picking up, right?
That's what I'm picking up also. I'm also picking up now that you're reading that a third time. I'm picking up that he was like, well, if I'm going to pay her, she may as well just come in here and clean. I'm like, I'm not going to pay her for nothing. Like,
I'm going to tell you one other thing that came up for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the gender dynamics, this is my deeply, deeply embedded bias here. I thought, is he cheating? Is there someone at that flat? He doesn't
Oh,
want someone coming in.
Oh, fuck. Okay, here's the thing. It's because I feel like that's because you have had real world dating experience as to where I have not. So every time something like that comes up, I'm always like, oh shit. Yeah, no, I could see that. But like it never, I am so naive that I'm just like on it. Or it's like
Watch reality TV. It's because I watch reality
yeah.
TV. Honestly,
Well,
that's why.
and it's also the thing of like, and it's that TikTok sound of like, show me your partner would never cheat on you without telling me. And it's like all of Ben's Warhammer miniatures. You know what I mean? Like there's not a bone in that man's body that would be like, no, I'm gonna step out because this isn't interesting. Like we would go to work events and I would be like, does she flirt with you like that all the time? And he's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, she's fully flirting with you and she's a higher up that you see frequently. I'm just curious. He's like, I don't know. That is a really good question. Okay, here from a clinical background, here's what tells me that's an educated guess. Their age in life, the fact that they have a kid, the fact that she and this is like an outlier, but she traveled without him with the kid, which doesn't necessarily have to mean anything, but statistically, if you were going to be cheating on her, this is an appropriate stage of life, the most common time for that to happen.
Really fascinating. Yeah, that was, I mean, and that was just an angling thing. Anytime I hear like I don't just cancel, I just need time, I just need sleep, I just
like
don't
an out of character, yes, and that's the thing too. Like if it's an out of character, like just cancel it. Me being like that no, that would be not unusual at all. I'm not a regimented human being, so it wouldn't be like, oh, that's weird that Crystal wanted to cancel this random thing.
Right. Yeah. No, but then I mean he did let her in. That's just the sort of thing where it's like you don't even want to get up to let her in. Like that's
or you don't even want to get up to hand her a check or to hand her cash and tell her to leave.
also,
Why?
5 is not early. 5 is not that early.
Especially with a toddler.
Mm-mm.
Oh, well, okay, here's my bias. here's my bias being married to a gamer for so many fucking years. My first question was, what was he up late doing? Because
Right,
if
right.
my partner were up until 4 a.m., it would be because he was gaming and shouldn't have been staying up till 4. You have a
Yeah,
toddler, sir. Like,
yeah,
even if you're on vacation for a week or however long your partner was gone, there's no way. There's no way. I have
yeah.
a
I
toddler and I'm
mean,
going to
I'm
start with that big of a sleep deficit? Absolutely
no.
not.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like that is a weird red flag. I will say also as someone married to a gamer, shout out to Jack, stayed up late, never fucking complained a second. If he ever
Yep.
stayed up too late, if he ever got sucked into a game, not a single
Yep.
complaint.
No, same.
Would
Same.
no
He'll admit it.
complaining.
He'll be like,
Yeah.
"Oh no, I was." I'm like, "You look tired. Are you okay?" And he would be like, "Oh yeah, Oh well." It's really funny because we were talking about Jack was streaming the other night. I was watching the stream, and so I was telling Ben and I were having an argument. This is for the nerds about. I was like, there rogue like like games, but there are also rogue light games LITE, and he was like, yes, there are, and they're different. Here's how they're different. But then Jack was talking on stream about one that he plays. So I was like, Ben, this is a roguelike or rogue, one of them that Jack likes. Maybe you'll like it. He downloaded that game, played it the other night until like fucking 1 a.m. because he was on a streak. And yeah, same thing. Never complains, is always like, oh, I was up till 1 playing that dice game that Jack was playing. And I was like, okay, no problem. It's
Yeah.
like, all right, I'm gonna
Yeah,
take the
like
kids to school. Hmm.
fair enough to complain about it. Complaining is fine, but like if it gets in the way, like
Yeah, yeah.
sorry, you want fun. Now
Glad you
you
had
gotta
fun.
take care of a baby.
Till 4, only got 1 hour of sleep till 4 a.m. Why? No.
No. So yeah, that's my bias here. And you're so right. You're so right that I would be much more forgiving if the roles were reversed, which I need to take in my pocket and think about.
Yeah, it's just I feel like ever since reading Boy Mom, like I like because like I think you and I have had this conversation. Brought up some point in the book that made me uncomfortable, and you said, okay, how would you feel if like if it was said about your daughters? And I was like, that's really interesting because it does change the messaging. It does change how I receive it. So like, I try and like hold that space of like, okay, because then you get down to really quickly what is actually the core or the root of the issue. Like what is the root of the fight? Oh, it's actually that you were not socialized to know to value care or nurturing, and you think that this is about handing her the check. It's not about handing her the check, right? It's
Exactly.
just very interesting.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So the book you're talking about we'll bring this totally around.
Mm,
Boy Mom by Ruth Whippman. And Crystal and I both read it. You and I both read it. Actually, Jack read it. And so it's not like the kind of boy mom that you would think about.
yeah.
It's about all of the things. Honestly, just like I squirmed the entire time because
Mhm.
it's like about, like you said, like all of these things that we need to talk about. We've had all of these progressive conversations about girls and womanhood,
Mhm.
and there have been a lot of barriers to boys to being whole people.
Right.
And she talks about some of the really icky stuff that like I found myself I thought it was such an interesting read. She has great perspectives, and also I found myself like real resistant to certain things she
Yes.
was saying.
Yep.
Like she goes to like a group gathering of parents of boys who were accused of sexual assault in
Mhm.
colleges. And
Mhm.
it's like, woof. This she described walking into that conference, and I was just like, I am whole gritty
Yeah.
sweat.
The white knuckling through that whole chapter. Yeah. And it's one of those things that's very uncomfortable and I think is a very like a very very nuanced piece of intersectional feminism, right? That it's like, okay, but if it doesn't include everybody, then it doesn't include anybody. And so
Mhm.
like men suffer and are a part of that, and contextually we need to notice how those ripple effects affect everyone. And I mean, and we're two, you know, cis white women who live in the US. So like the you know, I mean, we've had this conversation as we read this book, but the epidemic of family annihilators and you know, mass shootings are performed by one demographic. You know what I mean? It's just like it's very like, no, this is something that needs to be paid attention to. And it is a very a challenging in the best way. I bought a copy for like everybody in my family because they're very challenging conversations that make me uncomfortable in a good like mental gymnastics kind of way. It makes me it's you know what it is? It's critical thinking. It
Yeah.
makes me think critically, and I'm here for it. It was very well written.
Yeah.
Very well
Yeah.
written.
It was a really interesting read. Um, yeah, really interesting in context of this. The way that we read this Am I the Asshole is like,
Mhm.
yeah, what did this guy think about money? What did he think his role was?
Mhm.
What was stressing her
Mhm.
out? What bias did we come to the conversation with?
Yep.
Um, so if we're going to shout out that book, I also need to shout out um, this book, Everything and Nothing at Once, Joel Leon. So he wrote this book. He's an author. He is a storyteller, a performer. The book, I got the audiobook and I got the actual hard copy of the book. And the way that he writes about manhood, masculinity, fatherhood it's so fantastic.
Super interesting. I've seen the cover, but I haven't read it. And it's from the Macmillan page. It talks about how the audiobook is like a digital like an audio experience. Like it's not just a reading out of an audiobook. It's like yeah, essays and an experience too. So that's interesting. I'm going to do that on Libro FM so that
Yeah,
I can listen to it.
it was fantastic. I want to say it was like a journey. He really is such a performer, a
Mm,
musician, a storyteller, like very lyrical writing. It was just so fantastic. And he talks about pop culture and it's very self-reflective, very, very honest and raw. I thought it
mm,
was really, really good.
I love
Really good.
that. I'm going to use my Libro FM credit for that this month.
Um, any last notes?
No. I think they were both a little bit the asshole, or nobody was an asshole.
Yeah, I would, yeah. Just seemed like real, this is just some real shit. That's just,
That's exact. Yeah, that is everyday life, real shit with the
yeah.
partner that you live with.
Yeah, that's the other part is like, I see myself in both people of like,
Yes,
the last thing I want to do is let somebody in. Right now, I'm dead. I feel dead. And I want to be prepared for you when you arrive with our kid.
yes,
Uh-huh.
100%. Yep.
So it's like, I get it.
It always makes me super uncomfortable. Well, not super uncomfortable, but I'm always like, oh, when like we'll have someone in Time to Connect, which is our weekly gathering for Patreon subscribers, where we like bring issues or things that we like want to talk about, where someone describes their partner who's not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and I'm like, oh, it's
That's me.
me. I did that
Yeah.
yesterday.
No, I know.
Oh,
No.
okay.
Ugh. And you know what's funny is I feel like as friends, you and I do that very often.
Oh,
And
I
we'll,
was just telling Ben that yesterday. How it's so it's so funny. Oh, it was popcorn kernels the other day
oh
where I was
yeah.
like, Laura, you eat these fucking thing? If you ate that, would you eat these fucking popcorn kernel? Like it, and it's like the like half popped popcorn kernels because Ben was annoying the fucking shit out of me eating those things. And I was like, there's no way. There's no way. And you're like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'd eat that. I'm like, God. Yeah. So it does,
You
it
know what
gives that perspective of like, mm, maybe
I'll
that's just
take
a
the
me thing.
whole unpopped kernel and I'll scratch at it till it's gone. And just chomp it.
It makes my teeth hurt. Oh, makes my teeth hurt.
Oh
Yeah, it's
yeah.
good to have that
No,
outside perspective.
absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, we'll put links in the bio to the books and things. Yeah,
It happens so often. It's ridiculous. Like
it
it's
really
very
is.
funny. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, as Crystal said, find us on Patreon. We've been putting a bunch of resources, some for free, some of them are part of paid tiers, but we're over there. Subs there really, really support making this sustainable. And you're awesome. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thank you guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Time to Lean. Your questions and stories are what keep us going, so keep those voicemails and messages coming.
Until our next episode, remember that you can always find us on social media and, of course, in your podcast feed. You can also subscribe for $5 a month on Spotify for uninterrupted episodes and bonus content.
We're so grateful for your support. See you next time.